Good morning, everyone. Am I audible to you? Join the classes. We'll be starting with where we had left yesterday. We were discussing Indo-Russia relations and we'll be focusing on that only. Good morning, Adi. Good morning, Avtar. A very good morning. So, I hope everybody has joined and we'll be moving forward with the discussions that we were taking place. Good morning, Dhananjay. Good morning, Hemant. Everyone, good morning. A very good morning, Ankit. Yeah, Amit, good morning. So be ready with your pen and notebooks. We'll be starting with the energy cooperation between the two countries. That is India and Russia. We were speaking about this relationship and yesterday we had seen some of the important aspects, the trade route and all. Good morning, Suman. So we'll start with energy. The aspect of energy and how these two countries are cooperating and coordinating with each other. So, India is exploring some of the energy resources in Russia. And for this, ONGC Videsh Limited Limited, it is the designated agency from India which takes exploration activities along with some of the other countries. Good morning, Pradyum. Mani, good morning. So we had our ONGC Videsh Limited had agreement with Rosneft. With Rosneft. This is the Russian exploration agency to explore the energy resources. Okay, and here we are exploring the gas resources along with Rosneft. And India and Russian companies have also cooperated with each other in exploring the resources in some other countries. India and Russia are cooperating to explore resources in Vietnam. So the collaborative approach of these two countries is very much evident. And when Modi ji visited Russia in 2019, at that point in time, we had an agreement for exploration of the hydrocarbons. And we had a target of exploring these resources till 2024. The collaboration will run for 5 years. Good morning, Subham. Now focus on the lecture. And this is where we have started today. So we have agreement on roadmap for cooperation. In the field of hydrocarbons, for hydrocarbons, and the period is 2019 to 2024. This is the period which these two countries have decided to explore together. And as you know that Russia is also a very important partner of India when it comes to nuclear energy. Russia is helping us develop some of the nuclear power plants as well. We have Kundankulam power plant in Tamil Nadu, where we are having Russian assistance. So nuclear energy is an important energy resource for India. It is very, very important for Indian energy security. So we are having cooperation in the field of nuclear energy as well. And this Kundankulam nuclear power plant is being developed with the help of Russia. And as we had discussed, they are also cooperating in nuclear power development at Rupar nuclear power plant in Bangladesh. We had discussed this in Indo-Bangladesh relationship when we were talking about this aspect. This is in Bangladesh, and we had discussed earlier as well that here both the countries, Indo-Russia, is cooperating to develop this, plant. So we are exploring in Vietnam, we are working in Bangladesh, and there are many other places where India and Russia are cooperating in order to make most of the use of the energy resources which can fulfill the requirement of the third country, plus both these two countries can benefit as well. And as we are aware that Russia is very, very advanced with respect to technologies, so it is making things easier for us to collaborate with Russia. So note it down. Now we'll look at the other areas of cooperation, like you must be aware. Is it happening with you only, Mani, or rest of the people are also finding it difficult to see me? Please somebody respond. Am I audible to everyone? As Mani has suggested that I'm not audible. Okay, then Mani, probably Mani is having some issues with his network. All fine, then we'll continue with this. So the other field other aspect which is important is outer space. And Russia is a country which has helped India in this respect as well. So, the first two satellites of India, Aryabhatta and Bhaskar, first two satellites of India were placed with assistance of Soviet Union. So Russia was with us since the very beginning. Yeah, Ravi, they have collaborated with Reddy's lab to produce Sputnik, the vaccine. And not only Russia helped us with this thing, it also provided us with some of the cryogenic technology which was important to build heavy rockets. So technology transfer is also happening from Russia. Soviet also transferred cryogenic technology to India. To help it build heavy rockets. So the technological development was advanced there, and they had helped us with this transfer of the technology. And we are cooperating in many fields. In fact, you must have read this thing as well, that India is planning to send a manned mission to the space. We have our Gaganyaan project, and it is being done with the help of Russia. India's first manned mission is being developed with the assistance of Russia. So we can see that the collaboration is not only limited to this thing. Saksham, we had discussed this thing that it has initially denied this under US pressure. It was a time of the Cold War era when initially it denied. But when the ties in 1971, we had read that there was a agreement between these two countries where they started cooperating. They said that they'll be protecting their boundaries and they'll be discussing. Good morning, Asu. So at that point in time, from there onwards, we started collaborating. After sending our missions to space, they also helped us with this cryogenic technology. And now our manned mission, Gaganyaan. Science and tech, you have studied that they did not know. This is not true. I'll say it could have been very, very difficult for India to develop these cryogenic engines. Okay. They provided us with this thing, the technology. Some of the aspects, of course, like what USA is doing, USA is signing many of the agreements that India will not be sharing the technological information with other countries when it is receiving. So some of the technologies, of course, they are denying, but not whole of the cryogenic technology. For heavy rockets, of course, they had provided us. Okay, Asu, that is really unfortunate that you lost your uncle. And yesterday we started with Indo-Russia relationship. If you look at the lectures, you'll understand. And we are continuing with that only. We talked about Indo-Russia relationship only yesterday. So, and we had a brief discussion about the relationship with Sri Lanka as well. So it was almost a class of 2.5 hours. So briefing that within 5-7 minutes will not be possible. So my advice is go through the recorded video so that you can understand most of the things. Yeah, Adi, of course, India and Russia are collaborating in many of the aspects with respect to space technology. In the nascent stages, Indian astronauts were trained by Russia. Still, we take such exercises in order to make sure that our astronauts are exposed to the newer technology and newer ways, whatever is happening around the world. Now we'll look at other aspects. Okay, Subham, that is a great news. Then you need to get vaccinated yourself. Now, if we talk about the cultural ties, you must have heard that Hindi and Hindi cinema is very, very famous in Russia. And many of our students go there to have degrees in medical and other technological fields. Now we are talking about cultural aspect. Of course, Hindi cinema is very popular. In Russia. In fact, there was a time that when the movies which featured Raj Kapoor were awaited more in Russia than India. Yes, Saksham. Okay, so these cinemas are very, very popular. Recently, yoga is becoming popular in Russia. Yoga is in vogue in Russia. More and more Russian people are adapting to the yoga. And we have also educational ties. Russia is always willing and welcoming the students who are visiting from India. Dhananjay, we are not talking about which is good, right? That is a bit irrelevant when it comes to this relationship. Okay. So, also historically we talked about many of the places Many of the Indian communities are settled in Russia since ancient times, so they are very, very aware about the things related to India. And we have established tourism. The tourism sector is also a vibrant sector which attracts many tourists. And most of the Russians, many of the Russians visit India and they are more inclined towards the cultural tourism in our country. Okay? So, religious places in India attract a lot of Russians. And of course, there is medical tourism as well. Recently, as government has made some of the changes to the rules related to surrogacy, this has reduced a bit, but still they visit India. And both have tourist visas. Vogue means fashion, trend. Vogue means trend, the fashion. Okay, so these are some of the aspects which are important. But recently, medical tourism I had discussed last time as well. Medical tourism के बारे में हमने बात की थी कि कुछ जगहों पे क्या है कि this treatment is cheap and good. So some of the people choose to go to that place. एक तो ट्रीटमेंट हो जाए और फिर क्या है कि वो जगह घूम भी लेंगे. ठीक है, दिस इज कॉल्ड एज मेडिकल टूरिज्म. People come for seeking health facilities and they tour the country some of the times. So this two aspects together is medical tourism. ठीक है? These are the aspects. But lately, before starting with the discussion on the relationship, one thing I had discussed that there is a bit of suspicion between these two countries. There were some circumstances which had led to a situation where Russia started drifting towards Pakistan and China, and India was seen more inclined towards USA. So there are some of tourist visas are offered. This last point means if somebody is coming to India, a Russian citizen is coming to India and he says that he wants to tour India, then they get tourist visas on the spot, on airport only. But because of the COVID situation, at this point in time, these things are not on offer. Okay, so now we'll look at the cause of concern some of the things that has led to skirmishes in relationship, some friction points. The friction points. And you are going to have a question on this only. If you will be writing this year or maybe next year, this is going to stay in news. Okay, so this is important. The first thing that we have already discussed while discussing the defense, we said that India is buying less from Russia, and now India is focusing to get defense equipments from rest of the countries. Still India has, if we look at all the arsenal that India have, almost 60% of that is from Russia. But more recently, India has diversified its stock and it is purchasing from Israel. It is also purchasing from USA, and that too in large quantities. So the share of Russian equipments is lately reducing, and this is causing some concern to Russia. So first is defense deals. So if we talk about some of the facts, defense equipment, total share of Russia. So if we talk about the period between 2010 to 2014, whatever we were purchasing, 70% of all the equipments were coming from Russia. India was purchasing almost 70%. But if we look at the data from 2015 to 2021, then the share has reduced to 58%. And the way India is going about its defense deals with other countries, it is very, very evident that the share of Russian arsenal in India is going to reduce in future as well. And so Russia is not happy, as the share of Russia is reducing. It is unhappy. But the problem is not only related to the deals or the technology. Like we purchased Rafale from France because they were ready to deliver it fast. What Russia was doing, Russia was lately delaying the projects. And hence, India was unhappy. And this is one of the causes that we started diversifying our orders, because some other countries were willing to give us this arsenal in less amount of time. Let's say if some country is telling us that they'll be giving us in 1 year, they'll deliver it. But Russia has many a times delayed the projects, which not only cost us time, but whenever there is delay in a project, the cost also escalates, because whenever there is a treaty, we always sign that if things don't augur well in time, if more labor is involved, if more time is involved, then the country which is purchasing has to pay extra money. Yeah, Deepak, all the countries, nobody wants to transfer the technology. And the reason being, because it requires a lot of money to develop those. And if we look at some of the history with developing countries, what they were doing, in fact, India was also doing that. They were purchasing technologies from some of the developed countries, and then they were producing the product and selling the product along with technology transfers as well. So these countries were at loss. So now each and every country is making sure that they are collaborating in a way so that the technology is not being transferred. The country which is purchasing the product will stay dependent on the country which has actually developed the technology. Okay, so this is the first point, which is a cause of concern between two. The second point is Indo-US ties. Okay, so this is also not going well with Russia, because traditionally Russia was our friend, all-weather friend, and lately, specifically after 2005, we have seen that India is more inclined towards USA, and the relationship between India and USA has increased leap and bound. We had so many treaties that many of the geopolitical pundits even blamed India that we are drifting away. So Indo-US ties, India is part of many multilateral groupings led by USA, which irked Russia. Okay, like Quad, etc. And USA is also trying to have more influence in the Indo-Pacific region. And USA's presence in the Indo-Pacific region is seen as a threat by Russia. US presence in Indo-Pacific region is seen as threat by Russia. Though the policy of USA is to contain China, it is not giving much importance to Russia. And Russia is not even that strong as it was in some point in time, right? So such things are making Russia uncomfortable. And the fact that India has signed comprehensive strategic partnership agreement with USA has also upset Russia. India signing comprehensive strategic partnership with USA has caused doubts ठीक है. So there were many events which has actually did not go well with Russia. So they are unhappy and they think that India is not that friend what it was at some point in time. And so there were some issues. Now this growing Russia-China relationship is a cause of concern for India. This is a concern for India. So Russia has given advanced military technology to China. Russia sold advanced military technology to China, which can be used against India. And of course, India doesn't want that. But in the same way, we are purchasing from USA. So these are some of the points where both the countries are suspicious of the activities. The other frictional point is Russia has also endorsed China's One Belt, One Road policy. And India is not party to it. Neither India wants any of our allies to get along with it. Purnima, which country is genuinely happy with India? So, of course, it has to be some country where there is only one-way relationship. Like Mongolia, we gave them $1 billion. So they are happy. We also promised them that we'll be giving vaccines, so they are happy. But of course, if somebody is really close, so they will see the good things and they will also have a look at the bad things as well. So some discomfort will be there. घर पे भी दो भाई बहनों के बीच में झगड़ा हो जाता है ना. तो when we fight at home as a child, we used to fight with our siblings. भाई बहन में भी झगड़ा होता है तो थोड़ी बहुत होगा. लेकिन if somebody is very distant, दूर है कहीं, इंडिया ने अचानक उसको कुछ दे दिया, तो they'll be happy. Pradyumn, yeah, Mauritius is close to India, but they are more happy because they are safe haven for some of the illicit monetary transfers, right? Mauritius was also unhappy at certain stage, but India and Mauritius have cultural ties. Their students come to India to study, and India has supported it in many a times. So the relations are more or less good. The other friction point is Pakistan. As India has started purchasing less of these things, yeah, Adi, when India will take S-400, it is USA tried to put some of the sanctions on India when we wanted to purchase that, but it will not happen because even USA is aware that India is a big market, and USA, of course, wants India by its side, okay, because of its weakening position in South Asia. So this is basically a reaction to India getting closer to USA. So basically, Russia is behaving like a jilted lover and is jealous that India, instead of focusing on Russia, is focusing more on USA. So they know that India will be uncomfortable the moment they try to establish any relationship with Pakistan. So they have did this thing, and of course they have found the results as well. Now India has taken some of the steps we'll be discussing soon that has made sure that our relations are equally good that it were before. Okay, so what it is doing? Russia is supporting Pakistan to broker a deal with Taliban in Afghanistan. And India was dead against this thing. India has always said that most of the problem that is happening in Afghanistan is because of Pakistan. But the proposals given by Pakistan were endorsed by Russia. So their approach was, and on that matter, India was not happy. Okay, so India wasn't happy. Okay, so these are some of the friction points, the real friction points between these two countries. But if we look at some of the multilateral level, of course, Russia is the one country which is always supporting India for permanent members to the United Nations Security Council. It has endorsed India. It has also said that India should be part of all the major groupings. It is with India in some of the multilateral groupings like BRICS. So we'll be discussing these multilateral groupings separately, so I'm not covering it now, okay? So these are the things, but of course, if such things are happening, it was very, very important from the strategic point of view that India and Russia could have engaged themselves in some activity which could have built some confidence between these two countries, these two friends. So to make this happen, India and Russia has recently 2+2 meeting. So what is there to explain in the last point, Amit? This is simple. Pakistan is talking with Taliban to create a government in Afghanistan, okay? Because United States is pulling back its soldiers. We had discussed this thing when we were discussing Afghanistan issue. Focus on revisions. So Russia is supporting the view that Pakistan is giving. Pakistan has an approach. That approach is being supported by Russia. And India is not happy about it. India wants that Russia should back Indian plans. This is very simple statement. I think that you have missed the lecture of this relationship when we were discussing India and Afghanistan. So Pakistan is also a player there. So just revisit the chapter and I'm very sure that you'll understand this issue. Okay. So now it is important that these two countries seek a solution. Okay, so it is important that we seek a solution which can help, right? So we had 2+2 meeting. Okay, so this 2+2 is a kind of meetings that India is doing with Quad countries. Quad countries are Australia, Japan, and USA. In these meetings, 2+2. So what basically is 2+2? Here, we foreign and defense ministers of the two countries meet. Foreign and defense ministers meet. It was in March only, so it is important. And earlier, Russia is the first non-Quad, is only non-Quad country with which India has such meeting. Okay, so 2+2 meetings were happening between India and Quad countries only, but India invited Russia for this meeting. We decided that it is our old friend, and so we'll be doing this. And with this meeting, both the countries achieved a lot. A clear message was sent to USA, China, and Pakistan. What it did? A clear message to US, China, and Pakistan that Indo-Russia relations are strong. Okay, because this type of meeting they had earlier decided, and the Quad countries was even thinking that it will happen with them only, and this meeting gave a clear message to these three countries. China and Pakistan also understood that Russia is still more inclined towards India. Russia is still the all-weather friend of India. So India sent a message indirectly to USA that it has a strategic autonomy. Because US was pressurizing India, like Adi had also mentioned a little before, that USA was discouraging India. USA was discouraging India against defense deals with Russia and had threatened India of sanctions. Deepak, you always have ideas that are not very prudent. Okay? Why we require a military base in Vladivostok? We have a good friend, it is more than enough. And even if we base 100 soldiers, they won't be able to do much. We are having joint military exercises and all. That is, of course, helping. But such things are not warranted. Okay? So, and Russia sent a message to China and Pakistan that it has an independent policy with India. Even if China and Pakistan are engaging with strategic autonomy means strategic autonomy means a country is free to take decisions for its strategy in a region. In this region, we want to be friends with Russia. So it is our strategic autonomy. We can it's been doing since 2014. For one matter or the other, they do like this, Pradyum. Okay? So here we can say that both the countries have managed well. Okay? So with this, this is the most recent thing that has happened. Of course, the vaccine closeness, it is a little event at this point in time. If you are appearing this year, you must, of course, write about this vaccine friendship as well. Pratyush, this World Economic Forum, you must have, you have to read only reports. World Economic Forum, you must have read in economics, right? These are some of the groupings which is important. Of course, World Economic Forum is important. We'll be discussing in brief about it as well. But if we look at from the perspective of exams, in prelims, the reports are important. And in mains, if it comes with something very big, then it will be important, else not. Okay? So now we'll look at one question so that you can apply your brain and you can see if you can write good answer or not. So I want you to think about a question that I am writing. I hope everybody has written this thing. Everybody has noted down. So I have a question for you that I'll discuss the brief framework, but I would like you guys to attempt this question at home and see for yourself if you are in right direction or not. Okay? India, Russia, is India-Russia relationship is described as a special and privileged strategic relationship. It is so, but only in name. Comment. This is your question. Yeah, Adi, Russia is not threatened by any of the moves of India. It knows that India won't harm Russia, but it is afraid that if USA gets more and more influence, then it can only not only hamper the economic ties between these two countries, but also as USA has a history of being antagonistic to Russia. So if it makes some of the military bases in the Indo-Pacific region, then USA can always threaten the defense of Russia, the trade of Russia. So they are very, very cautious when a all-weather friend like India is moving closer to that country. So how to deal with this question? India-Russia relationship is described as special and privileged strategic relationship. It is so, but only in name. Okay? So how we should approach this answer? We have discussed each and everything which is required to answer this question. The only thing which is important and where you have to apply your brains is to structure this answer, what points to write, what not to write. Because at most you'll have 250 words. You'll be writing only those many words. So you have to adjust your answer as well. Plus, so you have to talk about this aspect. Okay? The strategic relationship. And you have to address this only in name. Okay? And the key word here is comment. Okay? So this word comment means you have to give your view based on some facts and arguments. So when the question says that comment means that you have some set of information, you know some of the facts, you know some of the arguments, and you have to write in a way that it shows that either you are supporting the view or you are negating the view. It leaves on you. You have read about this thing, you know most of the things related to it, and now give a judgment, a fair judgment. Talk about the good things, talk about the bad things, and give a fair view about this relationship. Okay, so this is what is expected from you as a student who is appearing in mains and who has to write this answer. You have to make sure that you understood the keywords right, and you have to focus on this word as well. If it could have been analyze, the word instead of comment, if there was analyze, then the only thing which was required was that you have to put the arguments that this thing is happening and this can happen. Okay, analyze. Maybe Ravi, if I'll find time, then I'll go through it, but chances are very slim because hundreds and hundreds of students send me answers every day, and it is beyond my capability to go through it. But of course, if I find time, maybe some other day as well, I'll try and go through it. Okay. So I hope everybody understood, right? And now we'll look at the aspects like what can be the introduction. What can be a good introduction for this answer? A good introduction can be, it is so, but only in name. So of course, the discussion like we had, that there was some sort of confusion between these two countries, and more recently India and Russia has made sure that they have put the things in place. So if I have to start with this introduction, I'll talk about the historical good relationship that has existed. In the same statement, I'll mention that because of some of the causes, some suspicion was there for last 10-12 years. And I'll write a connecting statement which will suggest that all the arguments that are coming forward will ensure that we understand the exact situation between India and Russia. So this should be our introduction. You can use maybe 30-40 words to convey a message that this was an all-weather friendship which has a very small patch, very small span when there was suspicion, but they have went in right direction. So the introduction will give a view of yours, right? It will give a glimpse that you understood everything in totality. So it will help, right? Now, the body. If we talk about the body, okay? So special and privileged relationship. So it does exist. Of course, both the countries have signed agreement. So a special and privileged relationship does exist. So I'll be giving some of the writing some points about this only. We'll be talking about these things only. We'll be talking about our defense relationship. We'll be talking about cultural aspect. We'll be talking about connectivity. Yesterday we had drawn a diagram. So that diagram, we will talk about space, and some more things. Okay, we'll talk about some of these things. So we'll show here that if we look at this, these aspects, then of course we know that the relationship is good. And now what we'll do? Now we'll talk about some events that created suspicion. And now we'll talk about the defense deal. We'll talk about Indo-US. We'll talk about Russia, China, of course, Pak. Okay, a brief description about some of these. And now we'll write a statement, of course, that these events, of course, have created some upset in this relationship, but we'll also talk about the turn of events towards positivity. Then we'll write about the turn of events towards positivity between Indo-Russia. Okay, and that turn of event, of course, we have discussed that it is 2+2 meeting. We'll give 20-30 words to this aspect, and then you'll move towards your conclusion, where you have to give your view based on these arguments, what you have discovered, what you have seen, what it looks like now. After analyzing this thing, of course, we'll conclude that for a brief period of time, it occurs that these two countries are drifting away, but the ties are so strong that these two countries cannot drift away, and this special and privileged strategic relationship is real and not only in name. This is going to be a simple conclusion. And with this, if some of you want, before that, what you can do, you can suggest some more things as well. After writing this statement, you can suggest that it's need of time that they cooperate more. We have instances of vaccination. You can talk about Gaganyaan and such cooperation. You can talk about some of the things that they are doing together. But it simply is based on the words that are available. If I think that to this point, when you say that this is a positive thing, you'll be consuming around 250 words. So if time permits, if word permits, you can go on. But the framework should be like this. So I hope everybody understood how to approach such questions. The flow has to be organic. The arguments has to be sequenced in a way that gives the impression that you want to convey something based on the facts that you have read. Okay? So everybody is good with this? Everybody understood how to go about this question? I hope everybody has noted this thing as well. So try to create a full answer. This is just a framework. And you should also do this practice. You must try to look forward to such things. Some of the times take a question, think about the introduction, think about the body, think what you will be writing, divide them into some of the heads, and try to think about a conclusion. And this shall make things really, really easy for you. Okay? So practice this thing. This practice makes a man perfect. And this writing approach is something that will take some time. But you'll definitely understand. धनंजय, कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स में ही आप सजेशन पहले दे सकते हैं, फिर कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क. कंक्लूडिंग पैराग्राफ की बात कर रहे थे हम लोग. पूर्णिमा, इंट्रोडक्शन हमेशा ऐसा होना चाहिए जो एक डायरेक्शन दे आपके आंसर को. Your introduction should always convey that in which direction you are going. अगर ये एक डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है तो डेफिनेशन हो सकता है इंट्रोडक्शन, बट इन दिस क्वेश्चन some elements are involved. So we'll take inspiration from the historical turn of events and we'll give a turn to our statement that there was confusion in the relationship. And the first paragraph should give an idea of how you'll be framing your rest of answer. It is called as introduction. It has to give the idea how you will be approaching. Okay? By reading that statement, one has to be clear about the scenario, whatever is demanded. Okay? So, we'll move to one important relationship, the other important relationship, that is Indo-USA. India and USA bilateral relations will be focusing now. जो भी आपने पढ़ा है, जो भी आप लोग पढ़ रहे हैं, उस पे try to write some of the direct questions first. It will help you. Tricky questions, of course, you'll learn with practice. But direct questions, attempt them because it is important that you'll have some habit. हाँ, सक्षम इंडिया इजराइल भी करवाएंगे, लेकिन प्रायोरिटी हमारी क्या है कि जो इंपॉर्टेंट ज्यादा है उसको लेके चलेंगे. विल डू दैट. एवरीथिंग विल बी डन. ऐसा डिमांड बेस्ड टॉपिक्स नहीं हो सकता है, होगा सारा. डोंट बी वरीड. ठीक है. Now, India USA, this is one of the important relationships that India has developed. We'll be talking about this thing. So, like we were doing with other topics, we'll look at some of the historical background. We'll be talking about the past so that you'll have a brief view about how this relationship developed. बहुत सारी बातें हमने क्या है कि की भी थी जब हम लोग प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स को पढ़ रहे थे कि उनके टाइम में कैसा था पॉलिसी. सो वी नो दैट as soon as India got independence, USA favored Pakistan on Kashmir issue. In 1947-48, USA was with Pakistan, and it was also asking the international community to support Pakistan in this cause. Okay, and they tried to project that Pakistan is right when it had tried to capture Kashmir. But it didn't happen, as Russia somehow was with India. फिर क्या हुआ? 1950s के आसपास US bagged India's permanent membership to India to United Nations, which India denied. There was a point in history when India was offered the seat to United Nations Security Council, okay, that we want permanent membership now. Now Russia is supporting us. Ravi, for GS and every optional has an approach, right? There will be some of the thinkers, the theorists, whose perspective will become important in optional. ठीक है? तो जब आप PSI और optional में पढ़ेंगे तो that will be more important. And in GS its name is general studies. You need to have general information. जो चीजें सीधे सीधे समझ में आती हैं नॉर्मल लोगों को भी. एक जनरल चीज जो हुई है वो लिखेंगे. We'll be writing that in GS. But of course, optional will require backing of some theoretical perspective. And it is valid with all the subjects, all optionals. Let it be sociology or other. This is just a name that we call United States of America and United States. India, Bharat. So, at this point in time, India denied, okay? And when India denied this, USA, of course, was unhappy. So what it did? Pakistan in 1955, it came openly with USA. Now India was at disadvantage. India was non-aligned. And at that point in time, USA had declared that any country which is non-aligned, it means that it is not aligned with me. So they are not friends. Then Sino-India war, China-India war. USA helped by sending the ship Enterprise that we had discussed. ये सारी चीजें आपको पहले भी हमने डिस्कस की हैं, but still it is a brief revision जो हम कर रहे हैं अभी. Now in 1966, USA was meddling with some of the things happening in Vietnam, and India blamed USA. Saksham, probably India did not understood its relevance at that point in time, so it didn't join. Because United Nations Security Council was all about the talks of wars, and India was a peace-loving country. So in 1966, India blamed USA, and hence it suspended supply of grains to India. In 1964, India was in deep soup, in deep crisis. And at that point in time, USA came forward and it helped us with supply of grains. But when USA jumped in Vietnam War, then India blamed USA in the international fora. And for that, it suspended the supply of grains to India. Again in 1967, USA always tried to get closer to India. It always offered help. Okay? It tried to make sure that it is coming close to India, but India was adamant that will not be aligned, because that was a time. If we look closer to any of the states, then the other one will be against us. Okay? So in 1967, India was offered membership. India could have been the founding member of ASEAN, but India denied this as well. Membership of USA-led ASEAN group. India denied membership. We'll be talking about ASEAN because it is important grouping. We'll be dealing in detail with it. Okay? At this point in time, the only thing that you need to know is that India denied this. और अभी हम क्या है कि हर जगह चाहते हैं कि हमें मौका मिले, हम मेंबर बन जाएं. शुरू में मिल रहा था, तो हम नॉन अलाइंड रहना चाहते थे, इसलिए हमने कहीं ज्वाइन नहीं किया. India, 1971, of course we know. USA sent the same enterprise to threaten India. Russia saved the situation by sending its own ship. So of course in 1971 also, it was not in favor of India. Now 1974, nuclear test by India. At Pokhran, of course, such events, India was sanctioned. So all this thing we have already seen. This is some of the historical events that we have already discussed, right? So these you are very much aware of. Okay. So in 1977, India was in crisis after emergency. So USA called for lifting of the sanctions. So India was again in trouble in 1977. So USA again gave an olive branch, lifted the sanctions, and gave $60 million assistance to India. Okay. So whenever India was in trouble, we have seen that barring few occasions, USA did try to help India as well, though we were not in favor of supporting it in international forums. We were many a times against the things that USA was doing to the rest of the world to establish its hegemony. But every now and then we have seen that USA was supporting India when we were in some situation, when we were in crisis. Now we have seen that Afghanistan was invaded by Russia, and that was a point when USA wanted to control these regions, right? So 1980s, USA pumped money to defeat Russia in a proxy war by helping mujahids in Afghanistan. And Pakistan. So it was giving money, it was giving arms. So what happened? The main interest of Russia was to make sure that, of USA was to make sure that Russia is suffering in Afghanistan. But what actually happened? These mujahideens, these people, infiltration in Kashmir started. And India started facing the problem of terrorism. Okay? So militant activities in Kashmir, and this was problematic for India. And when Saddam Hussein was fighting USA, USA requested for help. But as we know, we had good relationship with Saddam Hussein's regime. We were not very willing to support it. But in 1990, for a brief period, India gave support to USA during Gulf War. And this was not because India was willing. Proxy war means not directly fighting. Veiled attacks means though USA was trying to harm Russia, but it was not jumping directly. Instead, what they were doing, they were giving money and arms to Pakistan, and Pakistan was training Mujahideens to attack the Russian soldiers. This is proxy war, not the war which is not in open. Okay? So in 1991, LPG reforms. LPG reforms. And now all the agencies of the world, they are what? They were funded by USA, right? Most of the agencies, IMF, WTO, all of these had heavy investment from USA, right? WTO, IMF, World Bank, had dominant presence of USA. So automatically India and USA started engaging in many fields. The markets were opened, the capitalist countries came to India for investment. So when such lot of investment was happening, of course, India wanted money, it was suffering. USA came up with some of the help, some of the investments, and these relationships started normalizing. But on and off, of course, we know, again, we had another nuclear test. Nuclear test, again sanctions. So such things were happening, but we have seen, we had discussed that during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's regime, Bush was keen to develop good relationship with India. He visited India. Sanctions were lifted. So there was some ease between India and USA. Though for a brief period of time during this phase, it seemed that the relations can deteriorate, but it didn't happen. But the real breakthrough, the watershed year is 2005. From this period onwards, we can say that the relationship has improved drastically. And since 2005, USA is seen being closer to India. Then, okay. So in 2005, India-US civil nuclear deal happened. And this was the time when USA accepted that India can have nuclear facilities for civil purposes. India should not engage in military activities, but of course for civil purposes, India's nuclear energy program was backed by USA. India's nuclear energy program was backed by USA. In fact, it appealed to rest of the countries as well that whoever are having nuclear facilities should support India in developing some of the plants that can produce electricity for India. And here on we can say that the major aspects between these two countries changed. After doing this, USA allowed many technologies to reach India. That has been banned due to sanctions in 1974. So not only not exactly, it has appealed. United Nations was the platform. In Kargil war, most of the countries had appealed to Pakistan to leave the Kargil area. Okay, so sanctions were lifted as things improved. Slowly, USA emerged as largest trading partner of India. USA emerged largest trading partner of India. In goods and services. So more of engagement between these two countries, more and more engagements. We started counter-terrorism operations, cooperation. So a plethora of dimensions opened up. In fact, USA denied civil nuclear initiative for Pakistan, though it was allowing in India, but USA denied civil nuclear initiative for Pakistan. And USA has a declared policy since 2005 that it will not be meddling with Kashmir issue. It will not talk about the Kashmir issue. Only once Trump tried this thing, and Kamala Harris too wanted to get involved in this thing, but the backlash that they have seen back there from the Indian community, they have stopped doing this thing. USA has left its policy of mediating when Kamala Harris was in opposition. She talked about mediating. Whenever, even before Kargil war, whenever any third country had spoken about mediating between India and Pakistan over the Kashmir issue, we had always denied this thing. Of course, Pakistan wanted some kind of mediation, but we have made sure that will not be allowing these countries on this issue. Okay? So this is some of the historical background that is important. And of course, you know that Modi ji took this thing to other level. There is a lot of engagement. Photo to खिंचवाए सभी ने. Okay. And Trump had his dream visit in February 2020. He had never ever seen such a large crowd, large gathering, receiving a leader, and he was very happy. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity for him. Howdy Modi. And those events, the Indian diaspora and the presence in USA, of course, have shaped this relationship. So we'll be talking about those aspects. This is a brief history that you need to know what has happened. And this relationship is very, very important from the perspective of exam as well. I hope everybody has noted this thing. Now we'll be talking about the partnership that these countries have, some of the geopolitical aspects. It is a distant country separated by oceans, but is still very, very influential in Asia and Europe. So, of course, it is important for India to have good relationship with this country. And we are, of course, engaging with USA in many fronts. And India has signed comprehensive global strategic partnership agreement with US. So India and USA want to engage comprehensively. USA has signed such agreements with only handful of countries. There are very few countries with which USA has signed such an agreement. Okay. And of course, a little while earlier, I had talked about 2+2 meetings. In some of the books, you will see like this. And of course, in Quad, we have USA, Japan, Australia, and India. So the External Affairs Ministry and Defense Ministry are engaging amongst themselves. Okay, so this is important. And we are also engaged in some of the things like Quad we have talked about. We have engagement in some other groupings. The most recent one that was in news is Blue Dot Network. Maybe some of you must have heard of this. Blue Dot Network. Some of you must have heard of this thing. It was launched in 2019. And the purpose is sustainable financing. Sustainable financing for infrastructure projects of world. Here, USA, Japan, Australia are party to it. And India is keen to join. And if it was not for COVID, India could have joined, in fact. Okay. So this is important. Blue Dot Network is important because it was started in 2019 only. So this is a very recent thing. So it was started in and seeks to create an alternative to one road, one belt. Under one road, one belt, what China is doing, it is funding some of the infrastructure. It wants to connect the whole world, so it is giving money for the infrastructure projects. So what these countries, actually you'll see they are same, right? They are Quad countries only. The grouping is again same. They are all Quad. So what they are trying to develop? They are trying to develop an alternative so that they can defeat the debt diplomacy used by China. Okay? So this is important. And of course, in the Indo-Pacific region, these countries are trying to cooperate. And we are also engaging in some of the exercises. Malabar exercise, you must have trilateral exercises. You must have heard of Malabar exercise as well. Here also, USA, India, Japan conduct naval exercise. And of course, they want Australia to join this as well. So we can say that in a sense, these countries are trying to establish themselves in the Indo-Pacific region. They are also engaging together in Shangri-La dialogue. This is a meeting, an annual intergovernmental security forum. Where 28 countries of Asia Pacific region meet. Annually to discuss the security of region. So these are important. You'll often see these things in news. Here ministers, the military rulers, everyone goes there and they talk about the security of these region. It is attended by defense ministers of many states. So these are important. These are the things that you'll see in newspaper. Okay. So we can see that if we talk about the geopolitics of this region, specifically the Indo-Pacific region, Asia-Pacific region, the two countries are getting involved in many forums. Okay. So geopolitically active region, the Indo-Pacific, and both these nations have a strong presence. So these are the things that you have to understand in this relationship. Yeah, Deepak, now America has stressed this so many times. Previously, we were using the term Asia Pacific, but I have written here Asia Pacific only to make sure that some of you do not get confused. Now, USA giving more importance to India, and as China was always denying, Yeah, G7 meet as well. USA has invited India for G7, of course. USA has proposed that they'll be expanding G7 and India can be party to it. India will be invited to G7. This is a good point that you have suggested. India has been invited to join G7 by USA and there are plans to expand the grouping. Okay, so these are important aspects of this relationship that you need to know. Now the other important aspect is we can talk about the defense relationship between these two countries. Note it down. Note fast. I'll give you some more time. So I hope everybody has noted this thing. And some of the groups that we have discussed, it will keep on coming back in newspapers again and again. Yeah, Ravi, the proposals are even of G13, G20, G22. There are many proposals. But at this point in time, the only aspect which is more attractive to India is that we are invited to that small group. If India is alone added to G7, it is a better advantageous position for India. If the grouping is enlarged, of course, it will lose its shin. Okay, now we'll talk about so of course, Deepak, so what is the relationship? Do you think that there can be a relationship between joining a group and poor people of the country? You're thinking about two extreme ends. In fact, it can help. Those are rich countries. If we become their partner, probably they'll be more than willing to help us with the problem of poverty. So we have a joint committee on defense. India and USA have. These two countries have a joint committee. And India has been recognized as a major defense partner of USA. Of USA. Okay, so India has been recognized as major defense partner of USA. we have also signed, of course, Subham, if China is not adamant, then we'll be getting the permanent membership to United Nations Security Council in future. And even if it will block India for few more years, it won't be able to do it for long. Else, this UN Security Council will lose its importance, because an important country like India, which is a dominant player in South Asia, with such a big market, it has to find a place there, and it shall happen in future. Okay, so we have also signed some defense agreements. India and USA have signed defense agreements. The General Security of Military Information Agreement. General Security of Military Information Agreement. It was signed in 2002. This was signed between these two countries in 2002. It is for sharing classified documents. For sharing classified information from US government. Okay, classified documents with government and public sector undertakings. But not with private sector. So basically this is military information, okay? Military classified documents, sharing military classified documents. For sharing military classified documents with government and PSU undertakings, but not with private sector of India. The USA will share this information if it thinks that it is important for Indian government or some of the PSUs working in defense sector to know that information. United Nations cannot remove China. It is a very powerful country, and it will lose its relevance if it tries to do so. The member country can leave that thing. The other important agreement was signed in 2016, and that is Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. Logistics Exchange It was signed in 2016. So these terms can appear in prelims. From the prelims perspective, these terms are important. Okay. And basically this agreement, as the name suggests, logistics exchange, it is meant to replenish the supplies if any of the military arrangement is losing its supplies while going from one place to another. Okay. It is to permit the military of two countries to provide supplies while moving from one place to another. Basically what it says, let's say our military is going to some other place, to Africa maybe. And at that point in time, they do not have fuel or any other thing. The basic requirement, they need something, maybe some technical support. Then these two countries will support each other. Okay. They can use each other's bases for doing this thing. If they are moving from one place, the military is moving from one place to another, and there is a base of India, then US can use the supplies. And if there is a base of USA, then India can use the supplies. Okay. So it was an important agreement. In 2018, another agreement. In 2018, we had another important agreement, that is Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement. This was signed in 2018. This is also an important agreement. This is called by this name. And there are very few countries which have signed such agreements with USA. So, of course, such agreements are important. This is A major reason why such agreements are important, because such facilities USA is not offering to every country with which it is establishing the relationship. Okay, so this communication is for transferring highly sensitive communication security equipment. So as you know that you must have heard of phone tapping and all. So many a times what the intelligence agencies of some antagonistic countries do, they try to listen to what the uh, military is conveying to other bases. So they try to capture that information and they can plan against our country. By this agreement, what they'll send us very sensitive equipments which will help India save the information. So USA is providing us this. So there can be a question in prelims directly what these are. So you need to remember this basic points. And this is very important relationship. And rest of the things, of course, you know that they have transferred us. They are helping us with Air Force, some of the equipments for military and naval, and we have joint exercises as well. We, of course, have joint exercises. In defense relationship, we can talk about joint exercises that these two countries are indulged in. Like we had seen, Malabar was more of trilateral exercise. It was not bilateral. But of course, India and USA have some bilateral exercises. So we have Yuddh Abhyas. Between the armies of the two countries. We have for Navy, as we know that other countries have been invited for this thing. And COPE India exercises between the Air Force. Okay. So these are important aspect of cooperation. Note it down. The 3 points, the defense agreements are more important. If you see these things in news, then you definitely need to make a note of such things because it can appear in prelims and mains as well. In mains, you can just mention some of the things until and unless the question is specifically on the defense. And of course, we are purchasing many of the defense equipments. We have agreement over integrated air defense system, supply of integrated air defense system. USA has an agreement with India for integrated air defense system. This is somewhat similar to what Russia is giving us, S-400. Yeah, Mani, you can note it down. There are many, but in mains will not require this. This is just some of the things that we are discussing. Every small minute aspect, it will take 5 days for India, USA only. So from the mains perspective, of course, we'll be covering most of the things. From the perspective of prelims, whatever will be in news will be important. That you'll have to follow. Okay. If something is news, then it becomes important. If it is not in news, it will not be important. Now, this is a lot of aspects that we have talked about. So now we'll move to energy cooperation. Okay. One more aspect we'll cover. I hope everybody has noted this down. Of course, energy is important. And we are cooperating in renewables as well as non-renewables. There are many projects that both the countries are working on. And these two countries signed energy dialogue partnership. Okay. So while reading, you have to make sure that such terms must be used in your answers as well. If this energy dialogue, the partnership is there, an agreement is there, it means that it is between these two countries only. Yeah, Asu. Yeah, of course, you can rely on the things that we are discussing. And of course, Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, BECA in 2020, it was also there. But in effect, it's not been utilized because of the COVID times. If it will be in news, you can note it down. Okay, there was one more agreement, that is Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, but I have not discussed this thing only for the reason because at this point in time, it is not in news because of the COVID situation. The exchanges have not yet started. Yeah, Ravi, the thing is right. Okay, so we are talking about the energy cooperation. We had energy dialogue. India imports India imports LNG. This is liquefied natural gas. From USA. India supplied guar. This is, you must have heard of guar. It is a vegetable that is grown in parts of North India, specifically Haryana. USA has huge reserves of shale gas. Okay, so these gas is underground. So guar is a vegetable which is used in its process because its characteristic is somewhat like gum. Its gum is used, and that thing does not allow the instruments to become very hot and get damaged. So India had supplied guar to USA a lot of amount when it wanted to extract the shale gas, and still some of the times they purchase it. USA is also supplier of oil to India. And nuclear reactors, of course, they have USA has offered to build nuclear reactors in India. But their technology is not considered very safe, and some of the places where they wanted to develop the project had seen many of the protests, and because of this thing, still you don't see USC getting involved in many of the nuclear projects in the country. Okay, and these two countries have also set a fund that is called as Pace Setter Fund. And this fund is basically for producing clean energy, renewable energy. This fund is to be utilized for producing but you of course know that USA, you must have read this thing in economy, that many a times USA has dragged India to WTO because of the subsidies that we are providing for the renewable energy. So it is not like we are only cooperating, we are also dissenting. Because Deepak, their technology is better than us, so definitely we look forward to some of the technologies, tested technologies that are more efficient. So we seek help of countries like US and Russia. So this is, we have talked about the energy thing, and it is one of the important aspects, and tomorrow we'll be discussing other aspects of cooperation between India and US, and we'll move forward to some other important countries. For today, we'll keep our lecture to this point only, and I hope that some of you will definitely try to write that answer that we have discussed, and make a practice of doing this thing, even if some of the times the teachers won't be able to discuss questions. Maybe some of the times you'll not be getting this thing, answers, some perfect answers you won't find, but still if you'll try to practice this, you'll learn. Writing 1 or 2 answers every day can help you a lot. Instead of going for a full-fledged test of 20 questions every week or maybe after 15 days, it is always advisable to Yati, like I said, it's really, really difficult for me to go through all the answers that you'll be writing. Because every day I receive more than 100, 200 requests to check the papers. So humanly it is not possible, right? Because I take lectures for around 5-6 hours every day, and thereafter sparing some time for checking the answers is going to be difficult. So I am helping you with these structures. And like I had said that over Telegram, there is a group where I check some of the papers some of the times whenever I'm free related to geography. So there I spare some times, but optional requires some more focus, so I help students with that. General studies, definitely I believe with practice you can manage. Okay. So it's still, it's important that write, okay, even if this is a collaborative fund. Yes, US and the Ministry of Renewable Energy have collaborated for PACE set of fund, and USA gives funding to India via that fund. Okay, so if any of you have any queries, you can ask. Else, if everything is clear, that is good. It's more important than that you write. If I'll find time, definitely I'll talk about some more aspects of answer writing. But at this point in time, my concern is to make sure that we cover whole of the syllabus within the given time only. Most important aspects, okay? Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So have your lunch. Take some rest and then start with the studies. And like I'm always stressing on this point, everyone get vaccinated. It is very, very important that you stay healthy. And ask everyone to get vaccinated as soon as possible because the times are not good. This COVID situation is really, really bad out there. So stay very safe along with family. Okay, so take great care and stay blessed and healthy. We'll be meeting tomorrow. Have a nice time.